Hi, it's me again, Bill. And like I said, I was a sucker for the bottle. It is a Pinot Grigio, Costco's finest, about $8. But look at the bottle. I mean, look at that bottle. I couldn't pass it up. I was a sucker for it. As for whether or not it's a good wine, I'll tell you in just a minute. Remember our glasses, $100 a piece? Hey, it's not bad for a Pinot Grigio. And yes, for those that ask, this is my liquid refreshment. If you notice, my email is winelovers1968. The 1968 happens to be the year my wife and I are married, July of 1968, a couple of years ago. But we're still married. And that's what counts in today's market, correct? Keeping it together. But I'm here. I'd like to tell you a little bit about who Bill is. I was born in San Francisco in the year 1947. I grew up as what they refer to as a dog patch kid. That was an area of San Francisco down around Army Street. And the reason why it's called Dog Patch was because when the area was first settled, it happened to be a close proximity to the stockyards of San Francisco. And they named it Dog Patch. Dog Patch is tends to be a working man's community. The home I lived in was built around 1903. It was a three-story. My grandparents were on the third floor. My parents had the second floor, and down below was an old fisherman by the name of Tony. Neat old guy. But I grew up in San Francisco on Tennessee Street. Tennessee Street, the school I went to, something Scott or J. Scott or something like that, happened to also been the school that O.J. Simpson went to. Although I have no idea who the person was. My parents wouldn't allow me to play with those kids. Sorry, but that's what it was back then. But O.J. Simpson did go to school with me. By all means, he was not a celebrity as he is now. Or is he a celebrity now or just a lockup? But I grew up in San Francisco. It was exciting growing up in San Francisco. My family, up the street on Tennessee Street, they owned a company called Fruhoff Trucks. Actually, Fruhoff Trailers. German name, because I'm German. So don't piss me off. But they built trailers for the trucking community. My grandfather was actually the inventor of the refrigerated trucks for produce here in the Central Valley. My grandfather, William Horn, also was the inventor of the electric lawnmower. He sold the patent to Sears for like $100, but he invented the first electric lawnmower. Granite Horn was he was definitely an inventor. A little short guy. I don't think he was quite 5 feet. A hard-working man. He'd lived in Santa Cruz and drove to San Francisco to work every day. He was an interesting person. He was a collector. He collected a lot of different things. He's the one who kind of got me into collecting trains. But he was fun to be around. He helped teach me auto mechanics. I'm a wrench bender, not by trade, but by hobby. I built hot rods, built motorcycles, and I can do a little more than change oil in my car. I can change the engine for that matter. I drive a four-wheeler, Jeep. I'm on my third Jeep. Prior to the Jeep was a Bronco. And my wife and I did a lot of four-wheeling. And that was part of my growing up, was to experience as much as I could, as soon as I could. Hence, when I grew up, I had my first car at 13 years old, had my first motorcycle at 13 years old. Believe it or not, back then, when I was 12 or 13 years old, I actually went to church. And one day I was at, I believe it was called Scotts Valley Baptist Church, and there was this Reverend Glennon something. And I was a teenager, yes. I was 13, 14 years old. And I was sitting in the audience with a couple of my girlfriends at the time, Valerie and Michelle, or Valerie and Yvonne, or Michelle and Yvonne. Anyway, had a couple. But I was a bad guy. I wore a black leather jacket, and I rode a motorcycle. And the Reverend decided to make an example out of me. And he was up on a Sunday evening, and I got talked into going to church with my two girlfriends, because there could be some fun after Lent, if you know what I mean. And I went to the church, and then they were talking and singing, and I don't sing very well. I can carry a note in a bucket. Beyond that, I don't sing. But he came over and he was standing in front of me, and he said, "Billy Horn, you're going to hell." Oh my God, I'm going to hell? And he started talking to me about how evil I was. I rode a motorcycle. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. Played with girls on occasion, the good way. Never went to jail. I was never in juvenile hall, but I was going to hell. And Reverend Caldwell told me that I was a bad boy. And I never went to church, or that church, after that. It kind of, it stunned me, you might say. But I kept dating the same girls: Valerie, Yvonne, Michelle, Yvonne, Valerie, whoever was around at the time. I didn't marry any of them. Michelle married somebody. Valerie became a nun. Yvonne married a computer geek, of all things. This was before computer geeks were even heard of. But years later, talking about Glenn and Caldwell, I was the design review chairman in our community. And he had to come before us, the Design Review Commission, because they wanted to expand the church. And I was the first person that they talked. He handed me the plans, I handed them back. And he looked at me like, "What's wrong?" I said, "You want to build this church in a neighborhood? Give me a break. What are the neighbors going to say?" I said, "First thing I want you to do is change that roof. You got a kind of a redwood roof in an area of nice homes." I said, "That roof is going to stick out like a sore thumb." I said, "Change your roof, and I've got some more things I want you to change. Look at the parking." I said, "You're telling me now there's going to be 400 cars in a parking lot on Sunday morning? That's a neighborhood. You can't do that. I want to see the parking subterranean." And then he just went on and on and on. And after I left, I was walking out, and I said, "You know what? Payback is a bitch." And I finally approved his project, the rebuilding of the church. It took him about 4 or 5 months. But once again, payback is a bitch. And hey, I was ahead of the commission. But you'll learn a little bit about me over the course of the next couple films that I do. Some people say I'm very boring. Some people kind of parallel me to Hunter S. Thompson. Yes, I know a lot of Hell's Angels, but I never had my ass kicked. Yes, I rode a lot of motorcycles. I don't know if Hunter S. Thompson ever rode a motorcycle, but he said he did. And no, I'm not going to decorate my kitchen wall with the back of my head, as Hunter S. Thompson did. But hopefully you'll find that what I have to say is going to be interesting. We will talk about a lot. And like I said, some people say I have a very interesting life to present to you, and maybe I do. I don't know. It's going to be up to you to make that decision. But I have done it all. I kid you not, I have done it all. I've gangsters are very good friends of mine. Sonny Barger, president of Hell's Angel, his brother has Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner with me. I remember one day in our photo studio, we got a phone call from a group of HA. They said, "Bill, somebody's broken into your studio or in your studio, expecting anyone in there tonight?" I said, "No, I'm at home with my wife." "Well, there's somebody, but we'll take care of it." I said, "No!" Because you're talking about, half a dozen Hell's Angels there. And so I got my Bronco, just hauled ass down from Scotts Valley to Santa Cruz and drove up, and there was a deputy from Santa Cruz Sheriff's Office there as he drove up, and he says, "Are you Bill Horn?" I said, "Well, that's what the truck says." He goes, "Well, they tell me that somebody broke into your studio." I said, "Well, they could have." He said, "Well, how'd you find out about it?" I said, "Same way you did, a burglar alarm." And so he said, "Well, they also tell me that when the guy got into your shop, they came over to see who he was, and he ran, and he fell over that fence right over there. That fence is 8 feet tall." I said, "You know what's on the other side of that fence? A junkyard Doberman Pinscher." I said, "You don't go over to where that dog is." And by the way, the dog's name is Snake. Does that give you an idea? So he said, well, do you know how to get in there? I said, yeah, just a second. I got the key. So I